Hi, welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm Rhonda Hensley. I'm a licensed professional counselor, life coach, and influencer. Today I want to talk a little bit about a topic that has really been a struggle for me with most of my recovery, and that's the fear of financial insecurity. I spoke at a ladies' conference this weekend, and part of my talk, I talked about dealing with the fear of financial insecurity and how that manifested in my life and how it affected me. And I had several women approach me after my talk, and they said that really helped them. And one even said that she was struggling with a decision to make, and that because of my sharing my personal experience and pushing through the fear of that, that she knew what she needed to do. So I thought I would just come on here and talk about that, because apparently it's a topic that people struggle with. And, I had this insecurity with money. I was raised to be very frugal, and I was that way, but in my first marriage, that was not the setup with money. I was responsible to pay the bills and manage the money, and he had all the authority to make the decisions. And over the years, because, he would not use money the way I thought it should be used, and then I was left struggling to pay the bills. So I developed this fear that there was that something was going to happen and I wouldn't have the money to pay the bills. Robbing Peter to pay Paul, creative financing is what I got to where I called it, and even though we divorced, I still, because of the setup, it took me a little bit to learn how to manage my money. And so, but I still had the fear that I was going to lose what I had. I wasn't going to have the money to pay for it. And after our divorce, I rented this little house, and it was a little 2-bedroom house, and it was enough room, and raised my son there. And of course, I was single for several years, and I've been remarried for 13 years, and we lived in that house. And it got to the point to where, with his stuff and my stuff, and then we had to liquidate my parents' belongings, and there was some of their stuff that it was just not big enough. And yet I put off buying a bigger house because I was afraid. If he left, I wanted to be able to afford to have a place to live and to pay the bills. And, with a smaller house, the smaller bills, and I'd owned it, I'd lived there 26 years. I rented it for a couple of years, and my landlord wanted to sell it, so I bought the little house. And it was my comfort zone. And even though it wasn't big enough, but doing what I do today, I knew I needed a bigger house so that I could have an office. And so last year, while the housing market was really booming, we started looking for a bigger house. And I had to push through that fear been able to afford a bigger house, and I don't really, know what, just that fear permeates deep. And through recovery and doing the work, so I had to buckle down. I had to look at what was my relationship with money. Apparently, my relationship with money is I had the fear of abandonment. It was going to leave me, even though it was false. I've always had enough. My needs have always been met. I've always had enough. And, especially the last, 10 years of my working at a corporate job, I had enough, and with the 401k and all of that. And it seems like that fear is worse when I have more than enough than it is when it's been scarce in my life. So I remember we found this house, we bought it, and I had a lot of anxiety around it, but I did the work. That's what personal development's about. It's about delving in, finding out, where does this come from? Where's its origin? And my future was being recreated over and over and over again because I was making decisions still based on how I thought from past experiences, always in the state of lack. And I had to learn to start manifesting abundance. And so I sat down and wrote out what I wanted that to look like. I wrote it out. I wrote about this house. I wrote about this office. I wrote about doing what I'm doing here. And today that has come true. And I remember, been in the house a year, remember standing in my living room overwhelmed with the fact that I had deprived myself of this for years because of fear. Fear is, it's like a whole life force of itself. And I've lived a lot of my life in fear. And it comes from childhood trauma. That fear of what's going to happen next. The other shoe's going to drop. Gloom and doom. And oh my gosh, what's going to happen? But I've always had enough. And it has never come true. And if it does, or if money got scarce, I always was able to handle it. So today I know that if fear is kind of like, that ice cream bucket that's in the freezer. And it's like I've been really not trying to eat sugar, and ice cream's got a lot of sugar, and I really like ice cream. I take the spoon, I'm just going to go out there and I'm just going to get a spoonful. Is that what happens? No, it's not what happens. I eat half of the bucket of ice cream if I take one bite. That's the way fear is for me. If I take one little bite into that fear, then it becomes something very overwhelming. And there's really only two basic fears. The fear I'm not going to get what I want, and the fear I'm going to lose what I have. Those are the basic fears. And what counteracts fear is faith or love. And I have a lot of love in my life today. I felt a lot of love this weekend from those women. I shared my story. I talked about myself. It's very vulnerable. It's what I do on here. And I felt the love from them. I love myself today. I have a lot of love in my life. And, I've worked on my relationship with money. And anything that I believe that's lacking or not enough, then I end up being a victim to. And so I've been a victim to my money for years. And I declare no more. I'm not going to be a victim anymore. I've been a victim off and on for a lot of my life, and I've overcome that, and I will overcome this too. It's a process. Personal development is just a process, and it's progress. Little steps by little steps. In this area of my recovery, it's been a long battle. It's been a long battle. And it may not be over. But I'm not going to stop fighting. And I'm not going to stop working on myself. Because that's what personal development is. It is a continual process of just being a little bit better than I was yesterday. And that I can reach out my hand and I can help someone else through the struggle that I've already maybe overcome. But there's someone ahead of me and someone I know that I can reach out to that's ahead of me on this struggle. And, it was funny. I talked to someone that I know there, a lady that I've known for a long time, that, we were talking about the fear of financial insecurity, and that it is a hard one to die for some of us. And that's a process that more will be revealed as always. But through that, I can still be in such appreciation that I overcome those what ifs, and look at the what if it all works out, because it did. Been in this house a year. Easy as that. What if it all works out? sitting in an office in that house that I dreamed about. And, I'm going to continue and I'm going to practice to get better at each little step of anything that I still struggle with. And I'm going to come in here and probably tell you about it. So if you like what I share, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Hit like if you like what I share. Maybe you don't like what I share. Well, not everybody's going to, because I tell it like it is. And I like to say, the truth will set you free, but it's going to piss you off first. So keep coming back, and I will see you in my next video. And remember to be you on purpose.